The Case of Sinclair, from Junkie to Jackal. Welcome to True Unseen Crime, where the shadows speak, the twisted truths unfold, and the unseen becomes unforgettable. Subscribe, buckle up, and prepare for what they don't want you to know. They used to say the streets of Baltimore could eat you alive if you weren't watching your back. But in the summer of 2017, it wasn't the streets doing the eating. It was a man named Sinclair Morrow. Born to a single mother who worked double shifts at a local nursing home and a father who disappeared before Sinclair turned 2, his life began with an unanswered question. Raised in the city's McCullough Homes projects, the environment was unforgiving. Broken elevators, needle-strewn hallways, and gunshots echoing like lullabies shaped his nights. But even in the middle of this darkness, Sinclair had a spark. By the age of 14, he was dunking basketballs over neighborhood boys and catching the eyes of high school scouts. They said he had NBA in his blood. He was lean, fast, charismatic. But behind that charm was a mounting pressure to succeed, to escape, to be somebody. And pressure, when not released, festers. A knee injury during a high-stakes high school game changed everything. The scholarship offers dried up. The college dreams evaporated. Sinclair, barely 18, started working odd jobs, grocery bagging, warehouse shifts, delivery runs. But the injury brought pain, and pain brought pills. Within a year, Sinclair was addicted to OxyContin. Within 2, he was a full-blown heroin user, crashing on couches, selling stolen sneakers, and turning to petty crime to feed the darkness curling inside him. By 2017, his name was in BPD's system. Minor assaults, misdemeanors, robbery. But nothing prepared them for what was coming. June 13, 2017, a pharmacist at the CVS on North Avenue buzzed for security at exactly 3:14 p.m. A man with bloodshot eyes, twitching hands, and a hunting knife had leapt over the counter, demanding painkillers. Oxy, fentanyl, dilaudid. Whatever you got, he slurred. The pharmacist complied. But a silent alarm triggered. Within minutes, 2 patrol cars pulled up, lights cutting through the humid Baltimore air. Sinclair, now in full panic mode, grabbed the duffel bag of pills and ran. What happened next became legend. He tore down Preston Street. It was over in minutes. Then came the silence. Deafening. Meredith rocked herself on the couch. Carl begged. Pleaded. Sinclair just whispered. Y'all don't know what it's like to be forgotten. To be invisible.
But you'll see now.
You'll all see. He slit Carl's throat next. Surgical. As if he'd done it before. Meredith was the last. He didn't kill her immediately. He tied her up. Made her listen to music.
Talk to her.
Asked her questions about her child. What's her name? Olivia, she cried. Beautiful name, he said. I won't let her forget you. Then he filled the bathtub and pressed her head beneath the water. Sinclair spent the next 36 hours living in that penthouse, wearing Carl's suits, drinking their liquor, reading Carl's emails, writing in a stolen journal. It was like he had become Carl, just without the humanity. When he finally left the penthouse, he did it clean. No prints, no trace. Baltimore PD had no idea they were chasing someone who'd already slipped into another skin. The city of Baltimore didn't know it yet, but something ancient had awakened in the penthouse of the Harrington Grand. When Sinclair stepped back into the night, suited, shaven, and invisible, he wasn't just a fugitive. He was a phantom, a new version of himself forged in blood and silence. And like all phantoms, he moved with purpose and without trace. By the time the news broke, 3 high-profile victims found murdered in a luxury suite. Sinclair had already changed identities 3 times. July 3, 2017, the Franklin Street barber. Robert "Slick" Mallory was a 58-year-old ex-con turned barber. His shop on Franklin Street had been a staple in the community for nearly 3 decades. Men came not just for shape-ups, but for therapy, stories, and the safety that came from being among their own. Slick was reformed, respected, and recently featured in Baltimore Now for mentoring at-risk youth. He also used to be Sinclair's barber. The moment Sinclair walked into the shop wearing a navy trench coat and aviator shades, Slick knew something wasn't right. But he played it cool. Been a minute, Sinc. Sinclair didn't smile. He just Saturday need a new look. Halfway through the cut, Sinclair said something strange. You remember that time you said I'd either be great or gone? Slick paused. I said you were bigger than these streets. I think I've become the streets. That was the last thing anyone heard him say. The next morning, Slick was found slumped. Rainey came forward not to the police, but to a local priest. Father Desmond Marlowe had worked in the community for 20 years. He was trusted, discreet, and had buried more addicts than he could count. He reached out to the FBI. By the time agents Juno Marks and Leo Santiago arrived at the church, Rainey was already in hiding. She's scared, Father Marlowe said, clasping his hands. She says he saw her in the mirror. And he smiled because he knew. The agents were skeptical until Rainey handed over a sketch she'd drawn. A perfect replica of Sinclair's tattoo, half hidden under his collar. A tattoo no one but law enforcement had seen. This wasn't paranoia. This was prophecy. The FBI moved Rainey into protective custody. Not that it mattered. On July 12th, their safe house in Pikesville was compromised. No sign of forced entry. No surveillance footage. The only clue was a smudged handprint on the inside of the refrigerator. Sinclair hadn't heard her. He'd left her a note. You saw me born. You'll see me end. Rainey didn't eat for 3 days. She begged the FBI to let her disappear. I don't want to testify. I don't want justice. I just want to live. But it was too late. The media got wind of the eyewitness. Rainey Vaughn became national news. And Sinclair watched every minute. Cable news ran 24/7 specials. The Baltimore Butcher. Parmesan Psycho. Mirror Killer. Everyone had a theory. Podcasters speculated about Rainey's true role. Had she helped him escape? Was she a lover? A decoy? Meanwhile, Sinclair's trail went cold. Until July 15th. The diner incident. 3:14 a.m. A Waffle House on Route 40. A man matching Sinclair's description sat at the counter for over an hour. He ordered coffee, ate 3 hash browns, chatted with the waitress about her arthritis. When the cops reviewed the tape later, something chilled them. At the end of the meal, he folded a napkin and slid it under his plate. It read, "Your eyewitness ordered blueberry pie. Tell her I'm coming." Humor with razor edges. Sinclair left no trail, but his twisted sense of humor kept surfacing. On July 17th, someone hacked the city's traffic signs. For 2 hours, commuters saw a single phrase. Look both ways, Sinclair does. When the agents reached the penthouse, Sinclair was already standing before the same mirror. But this time, he wasn't smiling. He was talking to someone. To himself. To a reflection that spoke back. I became what they said I was. Because they never let me be anything else. He turned to the agents. Isn't that justice? He held up a shard of broken mirror to his neck. Somehow, despite protocol, Rainey made it to the penthouse. She pushed past armed agents and stared at Sinclair. You're not a monster. You're a man who gave up. He laughed. Same thing. No, she said, eyes fierce. A monster doesn't feel regret. He looked down.
And dropped the shard.
Sinclair was arrested without further incident. He was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, PTSD, and a cocktail of trauma-induced conditions. The trial became a media circus, but the city began healing. Slowly. Rainey disappeared from the spotlight. Rumor says she moved to Oregon, working in trauma therapy for former inmates. Before his sentencing, Sinclair sent one final letter to the FBI. I was never hiding. I was waiting for someone to see me. Baltimore rebuilds. But what happens when copycats emerge? And what secrets still lie in the ashes of the Harrington Grand? If you thought that was chilling, wait until the next revelation. Subscribe to True Unseen Crime, and remember, every shadow has a story. Stay alert, stay curious, and stay safe.